First, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mike Killingsworth, and I am a 28-year veteran firefighter with the St. Louis Fire Department. I currently hold the rank of battalion chief and was promoted to this position in December of 2013. I have an associate's degree in fire protection technology, and I'm currently working on my bachelor's degree in fire administration. Your Honor, on February 1st, 2020, at approximately 1:17 p.m., the St. Louis Fire Department responded to a structure fire located at 614 May Street in St. Louis City. Upon arrival, firefighters reported dense black smoke issuing from the eaves and roof line of the structure. Firefighters forced entry through the door located at the northeast corner of the residence and discovered a fire near a television in the living room on the first floor and extinguished the blaze. Shortly thereafter, the homeowners arrived and stated no one was home at the time of the fire as they were at the store. It is important to note that at this time, I was still en route to the fire as I was the battalion chief dispatched, but had a delayed response due to a meeting I was attending at St. Louis Fire Department headquarters. As I monitored radio transmission from the firefighters at the scene during my response, I downgraded my response to on the quiet as per St. Louis Fire Department policy because the fire was extinguished, search and rescue operations as well as overhaul operations were completed. However, I did continue my response to the emergency incident as it is my job to determine the cause and origin of all fires, also per St. Louis Fire Department policy. While crews were reloading hose and company officers were completing initial paperwork and gathering information, fire dispatch alerted on-scene fire companies of a working structure fire with a report of children trapped just 3 blocks away. Crews immediately threw the rest of the unloaded hose on the back of fire trucks and responded to a potentially devastating fire. Soon after, I finally arrived on the scene of the original fire as I did not respond to the other house fire due to the fact that a fire cause had not been determined at the structure fire in question. The family was gone at the time of my arrival, and the house was unsecured due to the fact that my firefighters were still awaiting my arrival before they rushed away to the obvious life-threatening emergency. While conducting my investigation, I noticed items of personal nature were missing and the house appeared to have been staged with old furniture and a broken television. I then noticed an unusual device mounted behind the television and it appeared to be the point of origin for the fire. As I collected the device, I noticed a pour pattern behind the television leading towards the kitchen. This is when I requested the St. Louis Fire Department's Fire Investigation Unit and the Bomb and Arson Squad of the St. Louis Police Department to take over the investigation per St. Louis Fire Department policy, as arson charges were necessary in this case. As you can see on the diagram, there is a limited amount of furnishings as well as a rough sketch of the pour pattern on the floor leading to the kitchen. Just as samples were collected from the pour pattern and documentation was almost complete, the homeowner arrived with an attorney who stated that all evidence must be suppressed due to chain of custody and cited the homeowner's rights under the 4th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution regarding unlawful searches and seizures. With regards to the claim or insinuation made by the defendant's attorney that the chain of custody had been broken, this is not true. This attorney is insinuating that once the original on-scene firefighters vacated the fire scene, they relinquished control of said scene, thereby requiring a search warrant or the homeowner's permission to enter the residence to investigate. The defense attorney may quote the case of Michigan versus Tyler, where the fire scene had been vacated by the fire department for several hours and the evidence gathered was suppressed due to a break in the chain of custody. But I would argue that in this case, the fire scene was only left unattended by fire personnel for a few minutes, a much shorter time frame than in the Michigan versus Tyler case. I would argue that my case directly reflects the Christian Reed Smith versus the state of Idaho, where the Idaho Court of Appeals determined evidence could not be suppressed, like in the Tyler versus Michigan case, because the scene was only left unattended for a much shorter time frame, and determined that the investigations performed were not 2, but 1 continual investigation. However, in actuality, I would also argue that my fire scene was never truly vacated. I was originally dispatched to the fire emergency, and according to St. Louis Fire Department rules and regulations, the battalion chief or incident commander is responsible for fire cause and origin. Simply put, I was still en route to the fire. I just had not made it there before the other firefighters had to leave for the other structure fire. Another claim made by the defense attorney is the violation of the Fourth Amendment dealing with unlawful searches and seizures. As explained above, the fire scene and investigation was never vacated, but if deemed so, was never vacated for an extended amount of time to claim two separate investigations. It is also important to point out that exigent circumstances can be concluded from this incident as the fire itself warrants entry of fire personnel to extinguish said fire. And once the structure is entered, it is the legal responsibility of the fire department to both determine cause and origin, absent of a search warrant or the homeowner's consent. Both of these points are backed by case law of Michigan versus Tyler in 1978. Exigent circumstances can also be concluded in this case as firefighters were called away from the original fire scene for a more life-threatening emergency a mere 3 blocks away. It is proven that seconds matter between life and death for persons trapped in burning structures. If these fire companies had not responded to the second fire, dispatch would have had to issue other fire companies from greater distances, thus increasing response times and decreasing the odds of survival of persons in peril. In essence, the children trapped in the burning structure may have perished if the fire companies 3 blocks away had not responded and stayed with the original fire scene awaiting my arrival. In summary, once Your Honor looks at the circumstances surrounding the incident and the case law that directly supports my conclusions, I know you will rule in favor of allowing evidence collected to prosecute this obvious crime of arson. Thank you.